Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's July 11th, 2019 meeting. You will notice this evening we are flying solo. Our interim town administrator is on vacation, and our new town administrator, Chris Dwelly, actually starts on Tuesday, the 16th of June. Of July, and we are going to have a little open house at 10 a.m. in the morning if people would like to come to the Board of Selectmen's conference room. Bob's supplying donuts.
2 donuts.
Early, he's only buying 2.
And coffee.
And you'll be able to meet Chris. For the month of July, Chris will be here twice a week as he transitions into the role full-time.
When Carl started, he brought cupcakes or muffins.
John did.
John, yeah.
This is a step down.
Well,
Oh, clearly.
we're working on Mr. Springett. It's a work in progress, Jerry.
So are there any
There is
other
hope.
citizen comments? Criticisms? Hey,
Clearly
We're
muffins
hopeful.
over donuts, I don't know.
We set a very high bar, Jerry.
it's the coffee that I think is most important.
Oh, yeah.
So the first item on our agenda this evening is the Carroll Community Center study, and I believe it's a request for sending out communications. Mrs. Spalding? Or who's presenting?
Well, we'll do this like Ford and I have been doing this for a while. One of us will start, the other will interrupt, and we'll eventually get through the items.
You only have 15 minutes.
15 minutes. I'm not even going to be able to do the introduction in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so as part of the Project Committee's awareness campaign, we had planned to spend money that had been appropriated at the town meeting on communications material, which would include things like banners, posters, maybe lawn signs, maybe mailings in the sense of a postcard, that kind of normal, PSA sort of material. And then Ford asked Carl about it. Is that something that would, just to check the base, or check the box to make sure that everything was okay? And Carl came back, there's a memo in our binder. Carl came back and said, about how we were spending money. There is no legal prohibition. That was one line, unless we ask for a debt exclusion, blah, blah, blah. But then he raised this issue of a practical question. And you can read it. It says, I would be concerned that this type of marketing using tax dollars may be criticized by residents, even though it is strictly informational. It may also lead other boards and committees who are advocating for a certain town meeting action to also want to use tax dollars to market an article. So from my perspective, and Ford, if your perspective differs, please don't step in. From my perspective, what we intend to do, or what we've always intended to do, is to provide the town residents with the information that they would need to make an informed decision about the direction to take with Carroll at a special town meeting in October. So I've always looked at this as information only. It's not, as you know, the committee has gone out of its way to remain neutral. We are not taking a position or advocating any sort of position. The only thing we're advocating is come to the meeting. And so I thought that a lot of what has been written in here really didn't apply. We're not like, again, we're a committee appointed by the board. We're acting on the board's behalf. And it's hard for me to understand how essentially doing public service announcement type information work wouldn't fit into a legitimate spend under the appropriations articles 15 from 2018 as amended at town meeting 2019.
So it clearly does not fit under Article 15. Article 15, and I confirmed this with town council. Article 15 was very narrow and very specific. And it basically said the actual wording for Article 15 was to use the funds for the purpose of remodeling or reconstructing the Carroll Community Center or new construction to replace the same, including the cost of architectural, engineering services, plans and specifications for any identical costs related thereto.
Okay, and as
So
amended?
This is a very, and as amended, all we allowed was a new, so the same,
Okay,
so clearly, under Article 15, you cannot appropriate those funds.
Okay.
We
So-
can, however, utilize the operational
But-
accounts of the town. However, there has always been a precedent, and this is very similar to what was done at 48 Springdale. And for 48 Springdale, so there will not be a blue book for this particular meeting, right?
actually, we think there might be.
Well, my understanding is Warren feels that this isn't financial. So let me finish what I was.
Oh, okay, okay.
So for 48 Springdale, we put together an information packet. So the Board of Selectmen, because Carol Lisbon and I actually wrote it and put it together, this is, there's a special town meeting, this is what's going to be discussed at that meeting, the pros and cons, the background. Something like that, I don't think, in my opinion, because a precedent has been set in the past, we did a similar thing for Minuteman. We put the facts in a mailing.
So an informational
So, I mean,
packet.
Right, similar to a blue book.
Right.
It's just not put out by the warrant committee. So for something like that, I personally do not believe this board can be criticized, because it's important that voters get the information they need, so when they come to town meeting, they're informed.
Right.
But the marketing and save the date and banners, those have always been paid by private citizens who supported these kinds of things.
Can I have
So-
a point of clarification? All we are asking for is to be able to promote the town meeting.
So
We're
that
not-
is one mailing that will look similar to a,
But we are doing nothing more than what the town already does, which is to promote the date of the town meeting, and that there will be a town meeting on October 7th, and we hope you come. And that can be written any way. The town clerk puts up a banner in the center of town. That's great. We're asking to put up a banner in the center of town, basically saying the same thing, or even at the transfer station.
right, so
We're-
all I'm
we're-
saying is that town, for specific articles, there has never been a precedent where the town paid to have the banner printed.
Right, but we're not talking about specific articles, right? We're talking about just the town meeting.
We are, that's just.
Well, then, I mean,
understand what you're saying, I'm not really-
Felicia will take the regular banner and say town meeting and change the
I met
date.
with Felicia today, and so I'm not arguing with it, and I understand we're not gonna be able to do it. My point is all we are going to say, we would like to say is, there is a town meeting on October 7th, come. That's really all we're saying. Now, the town already does that. If the laws of the Commonwealth or anywhere else say you can't do that, that's fine. But it is another example, in my opinion, of the open meeting law and government stifling the right of the public to get information, i.e. to go to a town meeting.
But Ford, you're not listening to what I said. I said that the town has set a precedent. The town, we can take a vote here, the town has always put together, as Bob called it, an informational package that gets mailed to every home. That, we don't have a problem with doing something like that. It's just multiple marketing reminders or promotion is something.
How many did you
where
have in
it's
mind? How many
where we're
different
crossing the
mailings?
line.
We had talked about originally doing a mailing to the town, giving the date of the town meeting, because what I'm seeing is a growth of knowledge and interest about what's going on. But we need to have 175 people there,
Mhm.
hopefully 200 there, so they can make a decision. So all we're trying to do is tell those citizens who don't go to town meeting, who really pay no attention, and that's the vast majority of the town, that there is an important issue, go to town meeting. I understand we can't do that, so I'm not arguing that concept. All I'm saying is, I don't think that's the right thing for any town to say that you can't advertise that there's a town meeting.
Nobody's saying you can't advertise. All we're saying is we don't believe you can use taxpayer funds to pay for the banner. Every single citizen in Dover can go and get a banner printed. I have. You go to Park and Rec, you reserve the time you need it, and you stick it in the town green.
But the
It
town
costs
already
20.
does it, that's my point. There's no reason, the town already puts up a banner, the town already sends out a banner.
Right, so, and that's what we're saying.
And
We're
we're saying-
happy to send out something that's akin to a blue book. We strongly support that goes out to every household in town, letting them know what the issue is. And
Now, that actually covers something that would be similar to, yeah.
That's fine. If it works and we can get 175 people there, I'll be as happy as a clam.
Has there been a precedent for whether it was a water study or whether it was a transfer station to send out a separate mailing with a set of facts and dates?
Well, this is what it will be.
Well, you have the example of every time a zoning bylaw is being proposed. I'll give you the example of most recent where the planning board wanted the authority to enter into an agreement with telecommunications companies to put micro repeaters on utility poles. They sent out a mailing explaining that, and it went to town meeting, and it was approved, and unfortunately, we've never seen any further action on it. Similarly, Park and Rec has done specific mailings as well. I assume paid by Park and Rec general funds. I think the issue that specifically the chair is pointing to is the use of funds appropriated under those two explicit articles.
Agreed.
As opposed to general funds.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Right.
agreed.
And the question that was posed to me initially was using Article 15, and you clearly can't do that. But there's no objection to using the town's operating funds to send a
And
mailing.
that would be consistent with past.
Yes, exactly. That's my point. So I think that's the solution.
Okay.
Having the
And
date.
then there's probably a time when, I believe, things have to get sent X number of
Yeah.
days prior to town meeting, so that would need to be worked out.
Yeah, we have another meeting with Jim Rapetti and Felicia and company on the 23rd to go through the sequencing. I have, so one other item that came up, that I'll talk about a little bit for the board's consideration. When we met with Jim Rapetti a couple of 3 weeks ago, and with Carl and with Felicia, we sort of sketched out 3 potential articles. One asking for money to further to do a detailed analysis of renovate. One to do a detailed study of build new, and a third warrant article to appropriate money to actually do the critical improvements needed at Carroll should Article 1 and 2 both fail. Within the committee, we've had a series of discussions about whether or not we should be proposing only 2 articles or 3 articles. The debate around 2 articles is it's very consistent with the mission statement that the committee was given. Personally, my view of this was always been that Article 3, the maintenance, maintain the building option, was always, I always saw it as a default rather than an affirmative decision. I always saw it as a reactive decision. But Ford took a straw poll. And I guess I also heard from people outside the committee who were saying, guys, you ought to keep this focused on making a decision about whether or not the town will support a community center for community activities. And don't, keep it as simple as you possibly can. So hopefully that's sort of and then we did a straw vote last night, and the committee sort of came out with, we should retain 3. So I don't know, at some point, I think that'll come to us for a final decision, and I just wanted to mention it here so you guys are aware that discussion is taking place.
When might the board make that decision and make a decision setting the date of October 7th for the town meeting? I would hope that it would be done sooner rather than later.
Well, typically, isn't there a 60-day?
Set it anytime, I believe.
So
We'll pick that up on-
I thought that was a bylaw
There's a
stipulation.
planning meeting with the town moderator, so I think following
Yeah,
that
we'll put-
planning meeting at our August meeting.
Okay.
I think what is important for this board is for your committee or representatives of your committee maybe to do a little presentation. I know you've been having a lot of those open hearings, but it's an opportunity to have something that's televised to
Oh, yeah, we could do that.
make a presentation of what you've learned, what you're going to
Yeah, sure.
present.
Yeah. We have to do an open hearing, I think, too.
We're planning to also have 3 open hearings in September.
No, open forums.
On forums, and they're going to be 2 on the Monday night and 1 on the Monday morning. So we're going to be doing that among other things.
So that's something that you can promote.
Do you want to do that in August? Or
If you think you're ready, or in our first
let us talk about that.
meeting in September, right? But I was thinking about that, I thought that would be, to come in here and make.
Yeah, no, it makes a great deal of sense.
I don't know how many people watch the Board of Selectmen speak.
Millions.
Right.
Millions.
Maybe it's
Ford
just
and
the
Carl
way
Lisbon.
Millions.
Get 3 other people to watch, to know about the meeting.
There are people who look at the tapes, though. Yes, Jerry?
If I might, could you just reiterate the options or warrant articles you're suggesting? I'm concerned, I thought I missed something there.
Well, I'm doing this from memory, so that's always a...
Under, and it hasn't been agreed to.
Yeah,
I
it's,
understand that, I think these were his suggestions.
this was written, Carl, on the basis of the conversation that we had with Jim a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Valenti, the interim town administrator, with Jim Repetti, the moderator, and us, and Felicia, they just drafted 3 potential articles. Article 1 was asking money to do detailed design about renovate. Article 2, I think, well, it could be reversed, but the second article was to appropriate money to do detailed design studies on new facility. And then the third was, really appropriate money, and we're thinking about that money as $5 million to begin the renovation, to begin work on the critical maintenance items that have been previously identified by the Mills Whitaker firm and by On-Site Insight.
So with those 3 articles, they're not inconsistent, the first and the second. The third is the one, if the first and 2 don't pass, then you need the money to upgrade the building.
Yes, specifically the HVAC, the heating system, the boilers, and comply with the ADA requirements.
And the third one is an article that failed at town meeting 2 years ago.
Okay?
I personally would not include it.
Sure, that
Look,
way we
but
come into
we-
town meeting with a
It's 2 votes. I'm for the first.
We
I've always
also
been
may
for
know
the two.
that tells us not to miss it.
Okay, well,
I think
that's,
it complicates it.
I agree.
All right,
John, good?
Thank you.
all right.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
So now we're gonna move on to the
Oh,
second item.
You done?
I'm done, thank you.
He wanted 3 minutes.
Ford, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Ford.
You would have been done in 3 minutes, but
John asked a
Bob-
question.
Good weekend.
you notice how she immediately threw me under the bus? Immediately. Thank you.
Right, so the next item on our agenda is to approve the new food waste program. And before we begin, Janet Greenwood is here representing the recycling committee. I would like to say thank you to all the committees involved in finding a solution to the food scraps program. And not only that, the town departments. A lot of families in town, a lot of households in town do utilize the program. And I think the solution that we've come up with is one that we know has worked in other towns, and I see no reason why it won't work in Dover. So Janet, really, I appreciate all the work you did. I know with Mr. Hughes, looking at different alternatives and costing those out. So we do really appreciate that. And this evening, I understand you're going to present a recommendation to the board.
I did site visits to Wellesley and Sherborne, both those communities as well as many others.
Just one second. Can people hear?
Would you, come sit up here and that way we can
Very
have.
soft-spoken.
We're always criticized for the audio.
I understand.
Now, Jerry, people think.
Yeah, Jerry's not a problem.
With Jerry. And Ford for that matter.
I actually visited both Wellesley and Sherborne,
Okay.
and they both have a setup that we are recommending, and many other towns do as well, where households will bring their food waste to the transfer station. We will have a section set aside for that. We've used both the recommendations from Wellesley, from Sherborne, from our DEP rep, and we reviewed 7 vendors. It would have been probably wonderful to stay with the farmer, but it wasn't economically feasible. It was certainly not at all economically feasible to continue household pickup. So we ended up deciding to go with Wellesley. Wellesley currently, the town of Wellesley, currently picks up our paper, our cardboard, our plastics, and rigid plastics, and they have for many years. I understand over 30 years we've had a relationship with them. They have been extremely cooperative. They came back with a second proposal when we thought the first wasn't going to work for us, and their pricing was better by far than any pricing. If we run about the same volume that we have now, and it's questionable, we don't have accurate figures on the volume we've used, so we're estimating about 1.5 tons a week.
Yeah, we had just under 300 residential units operating in the pickup. And we did several surveys. I went around with a scale behind George Stevens. And typically, people were leaving the 5-gallon pails that almost everybody used with somewhere around 8 or 9 pounds per week. That in turn creates the 1.5 ton figure that is an estimate, assuming of course that we transition into having 300 participants.
Right.
Wellesley currently has 300 active participants, and they're about 1 ton a week. And Sherborne is inching over 1 ton a week.
Wow.
And
Is around the same number of participants or more?
I think Sherborne doesn't have an exact number. In Wellesley, people had to sign up and they phased it in, so they do know. Sherborne has no idea how many people use it, but the day I was there, people were actively using it. So I also called on the head of the Needham transfer station, and they have not yet, although they have their own compost facility, then that does not come from their residents, and they're currently looking at doing something similar. the best use of food, excess food is always for people, the second best is for animals, and the third best is for energy. And we're going to go with the anaerobic digester that Wellesley ships the food to. So they'll pick up once a week and take it with their food scraps into Charlestown to an anaerobic digester.
And is it the same restrictions that the,
There are no restrictions.
none at
No,
all?
the,
So bones and,
We can put in bones, we can put in any kind of food, we can put it in plastic bags,
wow.
paper bags, compostable bags. And Craig has told me that I can speak for him
Okay.
tonight. We decided this is going to be something new for many townspeople, well, for everybody.
Right.
And although you can minimize odors, and the other towns haven't done this, our DEP rep recommended that we could have a bucket of sawdust and then, spread it out every time somebody puts food in to minimize the odors. We decided that since the anaerobic digester permits any kind of bag, that's what we will do, and that we will not permit loose food to start. We need to get we're only manned by 2 people, staffed by 2 people,
Right.
3 days a week, and we need to make it as attractive and easy to use for the residents.
So then residents should put their food waste
In a bag,
plastic
and-
or
and-
any bag.
any
bag.
bag?
Any bag.
Just to clarify, so you understand what's going on. The old program was throw it in any fashion you wanted.
No, I know, I'm a participant in
And
the
it was
program.
then put into 55-gallon drums,
Right.
taken right the same day to the pig farm. Here, we're going to have material coming in over a 3 discontinuous period and being picked up.
Once a week.
So there's a lag that you don't want loose food waste.
So that makes a lot of
Right.
sense.
But understand that some of the municipalities have been requiring the use of a 3.5 quart compostable bag, which is sold on Amazon for 10 cents. It's no great cost, but it is a size limitation. Instead, Wellesley has agreed to accept any bag in any
Yeah.
form. Certainly, paper would be better than plastic from an environmental standpoint.
The combustible bags.
Yeah, getting people to use the program is probably a,
Well, it will require a lot of marketing.
yeah, so I was gonna,
outreach. And some towns, most towns, and our DEP rep does recommend having some kind of giveaways. Initially,
I'll take a Maserati.
we will,
Think a little less expensive.
the compostable
Porsche.
bags are expensive to give away, considering that even a regular household, even if you use one a week, it's 10 cents each to give. Who do we give it to?
Right.
Where do you start?
Every household, or only the 300 that use the farmer? We will be selling the bins as we have in the past, and we did see a bin in Wellesley that's easier to use than a lot of the ones that that you have to pry the lids off. There was one in Wellesley that you can screw off, and it would be good, particularly for elderly people, because it's a very thick handle that you can use. So we'll be looking into getting that in bulk. The only thing different about using Wellesley rather than one of the other vendors, we have to buy our own totes, the garbage cans.
So those are the big.
Well, they're the same size you see on the street, a
Okay.
household. And we wanted to go with those because it's something that every resident will be able to lift up the top and put the top down. And the cost is minimal, and we think we're going to start with only 6 of them. And we have to have a liner in every bag, and that will be, Craig's department will take care of ordering those. Our DEP rep has also suggested that we perhaps start a group with Medfield and Sherborne and see if we can get some purchasing power on some of these kinds of things. So,
That's a good idea.
mhm.
So Janet, if you could spend a minute, being right now with the Carroll Project, we're in this information awareness process? How are you going to handle that end of it? These sort of getting the information out to people, telling them what they could, sort of what the deal implies, the steps.
Sign up, so
No.
we don't
Sign
know
up,
how many
yeah.
participants,
No,
So
but-
we'll never know how many households.
We won't quite know how many households, but Wellesley is going to weigh it, so we will know volume.
Okay.
Anecdotally, having done the stickers, I can't imagine doing a sign up, quite frankly. We'll use the usual next door, Facebook, the 2 papers, the town website. We'll have signage. We quickly put up a 8x11 sign in 2 places at the transfer station, just saying, coming soon. Once you do this tomorrow, we can start to do some, little announcements and telling people about it. Other than that, I don't know whether we'd be permitted to do a mailing to all residents, but,
What we could do is put it in the next tax bills, like we've
Right.
done before.
right,
Right.
which would be October, I guess.
Right, so
Yeah.
if you get something
Mhm.
together, we could just
Yes,
stick
we
it in
will.
the tax
Mhm.
bill and let people know.
And if I
Because
may,
it should be up and running by then.
Craig and I talked yesterday, and again today, actually, and we think we can start the first week of August. Wellesley will start tomorrow, so it's up to getting a vote and purchasing what we need and thinking through those last logistics. We don't want to start and then find out we didn't do the right thing and have to move where they are. So we hope that maybe the first week of August will start, and I anticipate it'll be slow, a slow buy-in.
I don't know, I'm ready.
Okay,
As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go onto Amazon now and get combustible bags. I'm gonna let my husband know that.
Jerry?
I think there are 2 issues that I think the public has to understand. Number one, we have continued to get many phone calls from people asking, why can't we continue what we were doing? And I think the word has to get out. For 3 years, we were explaining to the warrant committee and to the board of selectmen that we were paying dramatically under market rate because the individual who was doing the work liked doing it. And even though we continued to increase his compensation, it wasn't an issue for him, and we were ultimately this year, for fiscal 2020, we have $19,000 plus in the budget. Now, why is that important? If we were to have tried to continue what we were doing, we were looking at an increase from about $20,000 to $75,000 at a same level of participation, which would have increased every time someone else new came on board, and it just wasn't going to be economically feasible. But the other side of that coin is that now there's $19,000 in our budget, which we will not expend. We have the legal right to, but ethically it would not be proper. We're not going to spend it. It can't be used at all until the last 3 months of the year, when the warrant committee and the board of selectmen can choose to reallocate that $19,000. So therefore, there is funding available for advertising, for publicity, and yet still be spending less than what was appropriated.
Okay, it's good to know.
I might just state that based on about 1.5 tons, it might be $7,000 or $8,000 a year. So it's considerably less.
Wow.
There is a considerable savings, and therefore money is available that don't increase the tax rate, but actually will see a reduction, assuming all other things being equal, next year.
Okay.
And there are private services that
Yes,
citizens
and-
can call that will come to your home for somewhere around
We-
$20 a month and pick up.
Depending on how we voted our recycling,
$20 a month, Jerry.
there are 2 vendors, there are 3 vendors. The farmer himself will pick up at the houses, but he insists upon a minimum of 200 houses. So we'll be recommending two other companies that pick up their composters, and they pick up all around the vicinity. One is willing to start with as small as 25 households, and they run about between $5 and $8 a week. So we will indicate, I've looked at Wellesley's website, so I have some ideas of what we can do, and we will say if anybody wants to continue home, here are two companies who would be willing to do it.
You need 19 or 20 of your neighbors
Well,
to
one,
sign
yeah,
this form.
and the beauty of that, though, is that the more homes that do it, and people, when they go to sign up, will see that. The more homes that do that, the price reduces. So when they hit 200, they reduce the price. And the goal of this isn't necessarily that we need to offer this to everybody in town to come to the transfer station. What we're trying to do is reduce the waste that goes to the landfills or to incinerators.
Okay. John, anything?
Yeah, that's great. I thank you, Janet, very much. Jerry, thank you very much.
I would like to move to implement a drop-off food waste collection program at the transfer station and to enter into an agreement with the town of Wellesley for the collection of this food waste.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Thank you,
very much,
Janet.
everyone.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Hope there'll be a contract for us to sign.
Not tonight.
All right. So the next item on the agenda, Mr. Clark, I understand that you want to discuss activating and reactivating Dover's participation in regional boards and commissions.
Give me 1 minute to bring up a map. I have to be able to spell correctly in this device. I should have thought to do this before.
Part of our planning. This should be incorporated in our planning.
So we all have the email that you sent,
Yes.
and I understand that, you know,
If I would, you've all gotten this, and it's certainly been available. I'll point out that I felt obligated to make sure you understood that I'm wearing a different hat tonight.
Aye.
It matches your outfit.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it is color
Color
coordinated.
coordinated.
I very much appreciate the color coordination.
I'll leave that. Somehow when you get involved with different.
Yeah, you always get a cap.
Yeah, well, that's true. So, just to explain, there are a large number
Feel free to sit.
Okay.
You're allowed. You're allowed. But you have to put the hat so it faces the camera.
I hope Carl won't find this offensive. There are a large number of various governmental and quasi-governmental entities that operate in Massachusetts to support operation of municipalities. The most obvious one we do business with is the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and I'm sure you're all aware of it. We are, in fact, we've had two contracts with them. One was the hazardous mitigation, and now we're going to, come September, under a contract with them, paid by the state, not by the town, to look to becoming certified as a community for municipal preparedness, particularly looking toward mitigation of effects of climate change. So they're a organization mostly west of Worcester, headquartered in Boston, but they don't have specific interests that exactly match what Dover has interest in. They are more generalist. They, in turn, have divisions where specific communities with comparable focus do organize. And, for example, we are by definition members of two of those geographic groups. The Three Rivers Interlocal Council, Three Rivers, of course, being Neponset, Charles, and Sudbury, and the Southwest Advisory Planning Committee. Now, in general, the type of topics that come up in these organizations are traffic, development, growth, public safety, water, sewage. Sounds like Dover.
Right, so the purpose of this presentation is to let us know that there are various
Right.
committees that.
Well, if you could go through, there are a couple of specifics, and then there's one that you've never heard of before. We have not had any representation for some years. If you go back a bit, you'll find that Joe Milliken, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, was named as a representative to the MAPC, but the truth of the matter was you can't find any reports that were ever issued as a result of that, and I think it was basically non-participatory attendance, and non-attendance as well. And we haven't had for years. I listed the Charles River Pollution Control District. We use that when people have their septic systems pumped out. It is through that pollution control district. And it's not that we would participate. I think we have to have some mindfulness of it, because that's where we would understand if further limitations or rate changes occur.
How do we use it?
When your septic tank is pumped out, it's taken to Medfield, and because we are all commonly in that pollution control district, Medfield, acting as a member in that district, accepts for a fee your septage, as opposed to having to have it trucked to Rockland. Okay. The CRWA, Charles River Watershed Association, I think we really should have a regular participation. They don't ask that any of the representatives from the town act in a professional manner. They have professional staff. But conversely, they are actively promoting, with assistance, grant applications, particularly since, of course, CRWA is reference to water. They have been very active in implementing some of the things that I've talked to you before about, such as reduction of runoff of water, reduction of stormwater loss. And an example of their current work is in Watertown, where they've implemented street renovations where instead of having storm drains and runoff, they actually are able to redirect the water into plantings and such. So there's an organization I've been attending regularly. I think we need to acknowledge a real appointment there.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second,
Yeah.
Jerry? So how do you draw a distinction between the pollution control district, for example, the watershed association, where many towns, many municipalities, the 365 cities and towns, 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have nursing home associations, long-term care associations. They have associations that are contractors or housing associations, metropolitan and community housing, as well as town assisted housing. How do you draw the distinction between the associations, a nursing home association or a housing association, and the town having representation in a control district that most likely would be controlled by contractors, as you pointed out?
The pollution control is unlike the rest in that it's not that you have representation. You, by definition, under contract, are a member, and that's it.
Same with housing, and same with a nursing, or same with
whether it's the CRWA or the Neponset River Watershed Association, we are deemed to be members, although we've not had representation officially or at all. There's a commonality. It goes to the protection of groundwater, the protection of source water, the protection of stormwater. That's a consistent theme that's important to Dover. Don't forget, Dover has 60% of its perimeter on the Charles River. And obviously, we are very subject to issues of water. As an example, just so to get before the public, we've heard over and over again that the drought of 2016 has passed and we've had a lot of water. I was at, and I'll mention in a moment, the 495 partnership. I was at their meeting, which I go to regularly, 3 weeks ago now, and the head of all water-related governmental matters, Vandana Rao, was once again in attendance. The fellow who is the head of public works at Franklin spoke when there was a question of, well, are we still dealing with the drought? Now, you may not be familiar with it. Franklin has had serious water problems for years, had been under contract taking water from Holliston. Holliston ceased to provide that. And then they went to Norfolk, where they believed they had a legal right to draw water, and that's currently in the courts. And his comment was, they're a community that is based on wells. They're not MWRA. To this day, they have not recovered in their wells the water levels that they had before the 2016 drought, because the recharge just doesn't occur as fast.
So I think this is an awareness issue, and I think it's really important. We have started to put together goals and priorities for the town, the Board of Selectmen have. And I really think that within the list of items that we have, that we should include this in the list of items that we have, because this is,
Well, it
it is there.
It is.
So I think that really is the forum. I mean,
Because, we're not going
we're not going to act
to
tonight.
act tonight.
No, well, no, I am going to ask you to act on one matter,
Okay.
and that's the very last organization. It's called the 495 Partnership. And you would think, therefore, it's communities that are bounded by or sit along 495, until you find out that Medfield, Natick, all of our neighbors belong to it. And what is the commonality? You go there and you listen to someone from the town of Bolton talk about the impact of development on water resources because they have wells, or the impact on septage, on sewage.
So
Or-
who attends, who are the members? Are they
They-
town employees?
No, almost always they are the volunteers who are the town officials. Now, Franklin is a larger community, so there was the head of Public Works. But it was the head of the Board of Health
Yeah.
from Bolton. It was similarly someone from planning at another meeting. It is basically the elected or appointed officials.
So, so again, this is all about process, because I think it's really important to perhaps play an active role in this, but it's very not helpful to the community at large if one board is playing an active role without communicating back to the community as to what is transpiring.
Yeah.
Well,
So I think we need to have
It
some
needs a
sort
deeper
of
dive.
process,
Yeah.
right.
I'm totally in agreement. This
Okay.
was to get you to the point of saying, okay, what do we do with this? The one action item is, in order to join the 495 partnership, which I think would be very valuable, considering the other municipalities that regularly attend, and by the way, it's another forum for seeking out, understanding what other municipalities have done, looking for grants or Commonwealth appropriations. We can't just show up. They want us to officially have a letter from the Board of Selectmen saying we are applying for membership. They have a very substantial cost associated with it. They'd like a $500 one-time voluntary contribution.
So we should have the town administrator look into this,
Right,
yes?
so we'll ask Chris to look into it.
Okay. So the whole purpose of this communication was to get in front of you the fact that all of these organizations exist,
Right.
and there's a
Well,
commonality.
that was well done, thank you.
I know, we are aware of many of them, and I know there are individuals in town who, I believe the CRWA, Justine is a.
Well, no, she's not, excuse me, she attends, just like I attend. We are not members, and we can't be appointed to be, that's not an appointment, Everett. I attended one of their retreats, if you will, about a month ago, that they held in Newton. So we're attendees. you're not appointed to go to the CRWA.
Okay.
I'd like to, one other very short matter, tell you, relative to water,
Kind of finished for this.
and that is, there has been always the thought by some individuals that Dover has more than enough water. And as we continue with the water study, and while it's more than anecdotal, but it isn't statistical, in the past week, I've had to attend to 2 homes, which were not tear downs, so they weren't going to be new wells because of a tear down. They are existing homes. One is over 100 years old, it's just to the west of here. Another one is a very substantial home that was owned by a fairly well-known individual in town. And in both cases, where you're dealing with homes that are 50 years or older, the wells have failed. And
Too shallow?
generally speaking, they are shallow wells, or they are literally groundwater source. And we're seeing that, and we are also seeing more and more requirement for drilled wells to subsequently have to be so-called fracked. So just to get it on the record, this is happening. We are seeing it. And because of this, the Board of Health, which had planned to do this when we had a change of personnel, we've implemented some very rigorous data gathering procedures. We are producing a monthly recital of what is going on with all of this. And we are collecting statistics that before we've never had collected.
Well, and that was the whole purpose of the water study committee
Oh, come in handy.
Well,
to get a baseline. I mean, it's important to have a baseline and to understand what the.
well, this is being done by the Board of Health as its entity, not under the study.
Right.
Okay, I think we need to.
All right, well, thank you very much, Sherry.
Well done.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our.
I do like your outfit.
You know,
The next,
years I was in hockey, what can I tell you?
Yeah, I know that. I know that outfit too.
you look like you're ready for safari.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is to approve the Technology Advisory Board charge.
Yep. And we want to go with 2-year terms.
Right, initially. Right.
Okay. So the only question I had on that should be, do we need the list of skill sets?
No,
That was the only thing.
I don't think so.
You just put a period after requirements.
Right. Right, and get rid of.
Get rid of the-
stuff, right.
Yep.
Because I think it's confusing.
Okay? With those amendments?
And we talked about, in practice, it would include 10 staff.
Yeah, we have that up above.
All right, so then I move to approve the charge of the Technology Advisory Board.
Seconded?
I have to move, so move.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members will be appointed at a later date?
I have them.
Okay.
So it's move to appoint Mayak Jane, Ray, which is spelled R-U-I, Huang, Greg Cahoon, Greg Wright, and Paul Smith.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we have ex officio members.
Right. The
And Board of Health.
Designee,
The IT court.
IT.
Yep, sorry, go ahead.
town administrator or designee, warrant committee or designee, regional school department or designee.
Right.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Well, and that works because we have all the important committees
Yep.
represented and
I still have to talk with the regional school administration about that.
Well,
But
it would be good if.
it's been a busy July.
Has been a busy, yeah. Once again, another busy July.
And
Thank you to all the members who submitted applications and went through the interview process. And for those of you that did not get selected, thank you for your participation, and I hope you will continue
Be interested in the
be interested
town.
and be active in the town.
Well, I'm assuming you communicated
I did.
that to people. right?
Yes.
So, one point, so now we're gonna, I guess, schedule our meetings. So I do like Thursdays, they work best for me. So if we could
That's
see-
part of the tradition, isn't it?
Well, at one point, they were Tuesdays.
Oh, I wouldn't, I don't wake up until Wednesday about 4.
So do you want to start with the 5th?
The Fifth Amendment?
The 5th of September, the first Thursday.
5th and 19th?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should work.
all right.
John, good?
Yeah.
Up to you.
I have a big problem in October. I am out of the country from the 9th to the 24th.
So we could do the 3rd and the 31st.
Or if you wanted to do it earlier in that week, if you wanted to do it Tuesday or something. I don't know when you're in New York.
Well,
So we should certainly set the 3rd.
your special town meeting
Is the 7th,
is the 7th.
right?
And the 31st is Halloween, which
30
may
right.
not be
So we should do something that week.
of Halloween.
Yeah, the last week of
So
October.
you get back the 24th?
But at 6:30. The plane is scheduled to land at Logan at 6:30.
So do you want to see Tuesday?
Tuesday the 29th?
For me, I'm in New York.
Can we do,
Could we do Monday?
28th?
or Wednesday the 30th?
All right, Wednesday the 30th.
Either one.
All right, let's do Wednesday the 30th.
Wednesday the 30th.
Do you think that's too much time?
Well,
Three.
the earliest I could do a meeting would have been the 25th. On a Friday.
We could do Friday morning.
TV, if you wanted to do, if we wanted to do Friday morning, we could do that.
So Thursday the 3rd and Friday morning the 25th.
Well, you know what we could do, John? We could have a meeting on the 17th. Like mark it, so if there's important business that needs to take place, then John and I can deal with it. So it would just be an administrative.
It's okay, it's just,
type meeting.
Right.
So why don't we just pencil that in, and if we don't need it, then we won't do it. But just in case things need to get
Get done,
signed. or
right.
to be
Signed, right.
approved, Right,
yep,
so why don't we do that?
okay.
So 3/17
And
and
30, right.
And then we do what, 7 and 21?
Yeah, that's what we should do, 7 and 21.
And again, 5 and 19?
Oh, 5's my birthday.
Ooh, John has to buy champagne.
I don't know if I want a meeting on my birthday. I would prefer to go out to dinner on my birthday.
Hint.
You can take us out to dinner on your birthday. We're
Great idea.
accommodating guys.
I could do it the 4th, or we could do it the,
Let's do 4 and 19, huh?
okay.
That's okay. And happy birthday, early happy birthday
Yeah.
wishes. Do you want to do Thursday, 9 and 23 in January?
Yeah.
6 and 20?
Yep.
I guess 12 and 26.
Right.
20 February is school vacation week.
I'm okay with that. Are you?
Doesn't,
Yeah, it doesn't impact me if you're okay with it.
I'm sure my wife will probably be somewhere other than Massachusetts, so
Okay, so it doesn't work for John.
does that mean you'll be too? It's not clear to me.
it's up to her. Probably I'll be here. So I think she's probably at home watching and saying, "Yeah, the 20th works."
Yeah, we'll do the 27th.
I have a feeling, you know,
Yeah.
a certain woman could be convinced.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So then it's,
All right, so it's 6 and 27.
and then April 9th and 23rd.
John, what do you do the business trips? These don't, we haven't hit any of those dates.
No, you missed them, we missed them in October, missed them in December, missed them, January, and then
Oh, good,
May.
okay.
And then we might want to do a placeholder on August 30th.
No, April 30th
April
first because
30th
of
before
town
the
meeting?
town meeting,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
And Mona, do you want to talk to the town moderator about the moderators meeting? So I
So,
wonder if we should do that on the 23rd.
Robin, April, can you go back to April for 1 second? So
Yeah.
April,
9th,
9, and then 30th?
23rd.
23rd and 30th.
And 30th is a placeholder just in case.
Okay,
Because
because
of town meeting.
the
meeting is
the
early.
20th, the 23rd is also on
School
school
vacation.
vacation. So, how about if we went May 2nd and May 16th?
Yeah.
I mean, April 2nd and 16th
Okay.
with the placeholder for the 30th.
So
This
April 2nd,
30th is
April,
most likely going to be the moderators meeting.
right, right. So 23 is no good, so it's the 2nd, the 16th, and the 30th in April?
Which would probably be the moderators.
And with that would be the moderators meeting, right? Okay. Because town meeting is the 4th, it's the following week.
Right,
Yeah.
that's, we usually do.
Yeah.
this.
John, did you go back to March or is March fine?
March is fine. May, I can tell you the week of the 14th, the 10th through the 15th of May, I would be traveling that week,
Well, this is post, so May is
Yeah.
post-town meeting.
post-town meeting.
So we do the 7th and 21st?
We could do that.
Done.
All right.
You know, just thinking about the moderators meeting, I know Jim wants to do a little bit earlier, just in case things have to.
Well, we'll keep it as a pace, we'll keep it as the
Well,
placeholder
so
until we hear
talk-
from Jim.
Talk to him, it's probably somewhere in this week.
Yeah.
Or do you think he might want to even do it the 23rd? Because that would be fine. I don't know if that's just too early.
Right. Well, I think this year he requested an earlier week, but I'll
Okay.
check.
Check with him, yep.
Because
All
the
right.
23rd
Sounds like a
is
plan.
All right, Mona, I have a question.
Yes, John.
In March,
Yes.
where did you get a calendar that shows National Puppy Day?
Felicia gave it to me.
This calendar has everything on it. I love it.
National Puppy Day.
Yeah.
Valentine's
A
Day.
lot of them donated.
When is Take a Selectman to lunch day? When is that?
Oh, that's-
Well, it's, there
About-
is, let the selectmen take the staff.
After lunch.
There is that day.
I'm sorry, when I went to write it down and looked at National Puppy Day. March is 12th and 26th.
Yes.
Thank you.
Don't worry, Mona, we'll send you a list.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so now,
Thank you.
now we're moving right along to appointments.
Almost back
And-
on schedule.
And
I think for Bob Springett's appointment, he should have to pronounce Officer Catherine's last name. First year.
First of all, I'd have to read the list, which could be a problem.
All right, so the first item of business here is the zoning board of appeals is requesting that we reappoint Alan Fryer, Tobe Deutschman, each for a 3-year term, effective July 1st and ending June 30th, 2022. And then the zoning board's of appeal is also requesting that the board reappoint Hamilton Hackney and Michael Donovan as associate members, and each associate member serves for a 1-year term, commencing July 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
All right.
I thought we were going to do police this month and then,
I think we
So-
agreed to do all, because we have them already.
Somebody second that motion? The Board of Appeals?
Did-
I didn't hear a second.
We're gonna do all of them.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought
I
thought we were gonna just do one and then one next month, or,
I thought we decided, we have them all.
Right, we could do them, yes, yes.
And then, so, do we have a second? Did somebody second that one?
I made, you asked for a motion.
you asked for a motion.
I made the motion.
Yes.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we thank the zoning board of appeals. The next one is the Dover Police Department, and this list has been reviewed by Chief McGowan, and these are all one-year terms. And do I need to read all the names?
No, you just say
Okay.
authorized as presented.
Okay, and so I move to reappoint the Dover Police Department officers on the attached list as presented, all for a one-year term effective July 1st, 2019.
So moved.
All in favor?
We need a second.
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 Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done. And there is a list at the back of various boards that we should contact. So maybe we can divide that
But do
up
we-
after the meeting.
Yeah, but do we do, like, there are some here where is that something we can do?
So what I am going to do is the certain town employees, which is the last page.
Yeah,
So I'm going to make a motion to appoint Peter McGowan as the Chief Communication Officer for a one-year term. Peter McGowan as Chief of Police for a one-year term. The Inspector of Building and Zoning Enforcement Officer, Walter Avalon. Felix Zemmel as the backup inspector. Kevin Malloy as the wiring inspector. James Norton as the second alternative wiring inspector. Paul Angus as the alternative wiring inspector. Right to know coordinator would be Craig Hughes. Superintendent of Streets, Craig Hughes. Town engineer, Mike Angieri. Town treasurer and collector, Gerald Lane. And groundwater bylaw enforcement agent, Mike Angieri. And all of these are for a one-year term, and they all commence July 1st, 2019, and end June 30th, 2020.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we do have,
Right, there was a list there.
there's a list, and what we could do is, after the meeting, just assign people to cover the various committees for terms that have expired.
Yes, I agree with that, but I mean, there are a couple of them here, you know, Chris, affirmative action officer, that would be the town administrator, board of
Right, but he's
fire.
not here, so
Oh, we need him here?
I think so, I thought so.
Madam Chair, I have a request or a concern or suggestion. How do we go about the changes in a committee, an appointed committee, to select or rotate the chair of the committee?
So
Can-
that is a bylaw review, and that is part of one of our goals,
Mhm.
and something that we were going to address this year. But I think that's a really good point. You know, the chair of committees should rotate on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And we should not have the same chair. Like, for instance, this committee, we rotate the chair
Yeah, many do,
each year,
some
and
don't.
many do. But we should, as part of our bylaw review, we should see if it is stated in the bylaws that that has to happen. And if it isn't, perhaps we could implement a policy change
Mhm.
to try and get it. You know, the other concern that I have is we really also need to rotate the members on the committee, but
Right.
that requires
Right.
that.
I actually had,
Right.
are there term limits?
But we also need to have volunteers for those committees.
Right.
And one of the things that we talked about in our goals was to maybe put together this
The
town,
bullpen.
the boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
so
Right.
that we could get citizens to come in
Yep.
here and
Yep.
learn about these roles, because I think many people think it's a much larger time commitment than it really is.
Right.
And many citizens have the skill sets
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would really lend themselves well to these certain committees.
I think that's critical, because the ones that we have received, and as Mrs. Hunter was just alluding to, we've actively sought citizens who have maybe not participated
Yep.
and wanted to, in a role, to come to us and submit their credentials, if you will, for,
Right.
and their interest in what they were
Yep.
interested in serving in. So we have received those. How do we then facilitate to the board to say, this person is interested? Do we want to be mindful that certainly we have the power of appointment, but we also want to be mindful that the person who has come to us and said, I'd like to serve on an open space committee or a zoning committee or housing committee.
I don't have, I mean, my experience here is limited, but oftentimes it's been chairmen or members of other boards and committees who've reached out for members. I mean, you know.
So
But I think it's
most-
incumbent
so
upon
most
us to
of-
bring it to the.
And if we, the town administration, get volunteers who, I mean, there are clearly people who volunteered for Carol. There are people who,
Technology.
technology, that I really think part of our planning should include having,
So perhaps what we should do,
A
and now
pool.
we're behind April, but what we should do is in May, publish
what's opening.
what's opening up, because we
If
should
people
also
are- yeah, that's-
encourage committees to, if people are interested, to interview those candidates, because many times members of committees feel as though they need to stay on the committee
Yes.
because there's nobody
To take
to
their
replace
place,
them.
right.
But if we do outreach earlier, so maybe even in May, and maybe we have lists at town meeting,
Hmm.
and we have, and I love that idea about doing this town-wide boot camp, you know, sort of having an open house, so that members of the town, you know, what we should do is get a booth at Dover Days, and have a list of the various committees that
Mhm.
are available,
Yep.
and maybe print something out or write a little blurb about the in English,
Yeah.
the bylaw,
English.
about the responsibilities of that
Imagine that.
committee,
Yeah.
and see if we can get people interested.
But
in-
we can follow the process that we use almost for the elected positions, you know?
Right.
I mean, we have processes where,
Right.
and so it's a matter of looking at the bylaw, it's a matter of building an awareness campaign, it's aware, you know, and
Right. But it
coming up
also,
with potential
at town
candidates.
caucus, where the candidates are put forward, are presented, that is an opportunity for people, for looking at board opportunities where we should be proactive. I think it's incumbent upon us, because where oftentimes we feel
We'll be
there's,
behind the eight ball.
the candidates are sort of
We need to get out from under that
given
darn
to
eight
us,
ball.
and then the positions within the
Yeah.
particular board are almost expected of the people who are on the board. That shouldn't be the case at all.
Right.
It should be
You want
an open,
continuity, you want-
transparent,
yeah, yeah.
yet continuous.
Right, so you certainly want continuity, because
Yeah.
that's valuable, but it would also be, there are many individuals that serve on these committees that feel beholden to continue to serve, because there's nobody
It's been hard to
who-
find replacements.
who wants to take their
Right.
place.
And I
So I think it's an outreach campaign.
Yep.
Because it's important, we've been talking all along, to get all
Yes,
citizens involved.
yes.
And especially newer citizens, and I think citizens are concerned about the time commitment, but many of these opportunities have much less of a time commitment than people
Yeah,
think.
there are a couple of,
Right,
there are a
there are
couple
a
of
few
committees
things
that have,
That have major time commitments, but there are many that would allow you to begin to be involved in the town town,
Yeah.
live
Yeah, I
around
mean,
the town,
at
without a significant time.
At last night's Carol Project meeting, I mean, you know, we have a lot of younger people who have volunteered their time to come, and it's amazing how it's almost like we're almost like doing an education. Here's how the town works, you know, like your boot camp. There's no real opportunity to understand how the town works.
Yeah.
And the town is different than maybe a city or a larger,
Absolutely.
you know, and so it's interesting. I feel like I'm sort of educating
Yeah.
on what the rules of the road are and what different bodies get involved in different decisions. So
Well,
But you also,
particularly
you constantly see the same. set
with
of-
zoning, the one that we're on this evening, and you know, there are skill sets and there are
specific
areas of expertise.
Yep.
We've had people who fit the skill set who have inquired. That's something we should really consider. While we're on this subject, I was going to save this until the end, Madam Chair, if you would indulge, and on behalf of the board, I don't know if you were away last week, Bob, but Laverne Lovell, who serves on the Zoning Board of Appeals,
I know George, yeah.
had a loss in her family, her husband George, and we, on behalf of the board, would like to extend the condolences to the Lovell family, thank Laverne, George for specifically his years of service and all the services she's extended to the town. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
yeah. So, thank you, George, for all your work, and Laverne, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family.
I did not know them personally, but I did see the sign at Levels when I went to pick something up. So.
Great guy. It was certainly his service on Monday was a great tribute to a great man and a great family.
Okay.
So then we have just selectmen updates.
Yep.
So on Monday morning, we actually met with Friends of the Dover Greenway. It was a really good conversation. We think we have a path forward. They just asked me to check on the feasibility of the path forward, and then they would like to make a joint statement to the Board of Selectmen. So I am working, Steve Anderson is on vacation this week.
The
So
lawyers
I
don't
sent-
get vacation.
Right, so I sent him a
That's our
note,
lawyers.
and there's some follow-up items that the Friends asked me to follow up on.
Okay.
And then, I think the path forward, if feasible, is a win-win for all.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Yeah. Okay.
So it was a very good-
I literally did the community
You
center
did
update.
already, all right.
Two birds with one
So that will
stone.
most likely be on the agenda, Mona,
Okay.
for the meeting.
The 15th.
But they really very much want to craft a joint statement or a
Okay.
joint communication.
Okay. So the meeting of August 15th.
Right, but
Okay.
I need to work through some of
Okay.
the devil's always in the details.
Devil's in the detail. John's favorite part of our list.
Always.
So as always, there's some special licenses, and so I am going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is as presented, that includes special liquor licenses all in 2019 for July 4th, 5th, and 12th. Just by the way, those are retroactive.
Retroactive.
Not the 12th.
13th, there are two events, 15th, 16th, 17th, 19th, 20th, 22nd, 23rd, 25th, 26th. And on the 26th, there are two events. The 27th of July as well. August 1st, there are two events. August 3rd and 4th, and then September 28th. And also, I would like to approve the open session meeting minutes for May 21st, 28th, 31st, and June 20th. And the executive session minutes for April 25th, May 28th and June 20th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's a lot of meeting minutes.
There's a lot of meeting minutes.
Thank you, Mona.
Thank you. And just a reminder, follow-up things, I think we can give Chris, the week one, but we should probably schedule a meeting with him because it's really important for us to prioritize the goals and objectives.
Yeah, we need to do
for
that,
this-
yes,
for this year.
yes,
And it's something that he wants to make sure we get done as
yes.
soon as possible.
I agree, couldn't agree
so
more.
that we're
It was
all working on
within
the
my
same-
notes, but I forgot about
Right.
it.
And
So maybe we could do that in a morning, so we can touch base with him. And I thought it was really productive, the way we did it with
Oh, it
Carl.
was very well
Yeah.
done.
So if we take the summary and sort of do it the same way with this, and just identify, because we're already a month, we're
Yeah,
already
right,
at 11
right.
months.
Right.
So,
Good,
okay, so that's
okay.
the only thing else. So I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
seconded.
So
All in
moved.
favor?
Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Good night, everyone, and enjoy this muggy July evening.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.